Australian Parliament member Richard Marles was in Brunei yesterday for a one-day visit where he met with various Bruneian ministers to strengthen bilateral relations, particularly on areas such as education, defence and trade. Following the meetings, Marles visited the Royal Regalia Museum and spoke to the Brunei Times about ASEAN and Brunei's role as the ASEAN chair next year.
Well, firstly, ASEAN is absolutely fundamental to Australia. This is the region in which we live. It's the region with which we identify. It's the region which is at the heart of Australia's future economic opportunity. We very much see ourselves as being a part of the Asian century, working with Asia, being a part of Asia and contributing to the rise of Asia. So at the centre of that is ASEAN. Within ASEAN, we have always felt that Brunei has been one of our very best friends. It was Brunei who led the negotiations on behalf of ASEAN with both Australia and New Zealand to establish the Australia-New Zealand ASEAN Free Trade Agreement. I think what we want to see from 2013 is that Brunei has a very successful tenure in the chair of ASEAN and the East Asian Summit. I know that there are a number of areas that have been talked about in terms of being a focus for 12 months, and I know that Brunei is going through a process of consulting around ASEAN and dialogue partners with ASEAN about the kind of issues which could be a focus, but clearly such things as food security and energy security are going to be really critical to the future of this part of the world. And what we would like to do is really offer whatever assistance we can to Brunei in its chairing of ASEAN and the East Asian Summit so that it is a success. And offering that assistance in practical ways, offering that assistance in terms of just being a friendly neighbour who can provide ideas and advice during that time. But I think Brunei being in the chair of ASEAN and the East Asian Summit next year, it's a critical time for this part of the world, and Brunei is a very good country to be leading that process next year.
Marles also looked toward the broader Asia-Pacific region and highlighted the potential of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the benefits it will bring to member countries.
Well, the TPP, we think, has an enormous opportunity to develop significant or reduce trade barriers throughout the Asia-Pacific region. The TPP, were it to move forward, I think has a real potential to meet a large part of the ideals of APEC through trying to remove as many trade barriers as we can throughout this region and throughout the entire Pacific region. Australia has always had a strong trading emphasis in the way in which it engages with the rest of the world. We have always believed in reducing trade barriers and promoting global trade as a means of promoting global prosperity, as well as Australia's own prosperity. So we think that trade is fundamental to the growth of the global economy. And we see Brunei as having played a very important role in the TPP and, as I mentioned earlier, more generally in the area of trade liberalisation within this part of the world.